Hi guys, welcome back to my top reads of 2013. Now I'm going to do my top 5 crime thriller reads, and again this is a really difficult topic and genre to kind of choose my favourite ones in, because again I've read so many and it's really difficult, and they're also different as well, to kind of judge books and compare them together when they're all so different, have such different storylines and characters, and the authors are also different in their styles, but I've managed to get it down to 5. So without further ado, I will start. The first one is Until You're Mine by Samantha Hayes. Now again, can we just take a look at the cover? How amazing is that? And this was a book that I read and then I just kind of thought, what? And I thought, I'm going to have to read this again in the near future to actually completely and utterly understand everything that happened, because it's one of those books that you'll read and you're like, okay, I know where this is going. Yep, I know where this is going, I completely can tell what's going to happen, and then it's just like, what? How did that happen? I did not see that coming. It was just so full of twists and turns and so unexpected, and the characters were so well written, and I didn't know who to trust and whose point of view to listen to, and it's just such a gripping read. And it actually says in the cover, psychological suspense that grips from the very first page, and that is so true. I could not put this book down. I was just flicking through it really quickly, trying to race to the end to kind of find out what was going to happen, and it was just incredible. So I would 100% recommend that you read this book. Okay, so the second book that I've chosen is The Second Life of Amy Archer by R.S. Pateman. Now this book frustrated me a hell of a lot because of the ending, because the ending was so ambiguous and so open that I wasn't sure what to make of it. I kind of just felt that the book ended and then that was it. Nothing happened, and then you just kind of were left thinking, well, what was that ending about? And that really frustrated me, because I don't like books that do that. I like a book that has a really solid ending and tells you what happens to the characters and tells you where everything's gone. But this one, it was kind of like, oh, okay then, so that's the end, what's, what happened? So if you don't like books that end like that, then I probably wouldn't read this, because it will really annoy you. But I actually really quite enjoyed the story of it before I got to the end. It's a really interesting concept. It's about a woman whose daughter called Amy has gone missing, and one day a girl turns up at her front door who's the same age as Amy would have been, and says that she is Amy, but she doesn't look like Amy, she doesn't sound like Amy, she's got her own mother. But then this girl, who is claiming to be Amy, knows things that only Amy would have known, and then the mother's really thrown, because she's like, well, is this my daughter, or what's happened, because my daughter would only know these things, but she doesn't look like my daughter, she can't be my daughter. And oh, it's just fantastic. It's absolutely incredible. And I know I say that, I have such a bad grasp of adjectives. I always say incredible or brilliant or I adored it or I loved it, but yeah, I can't find any other words to describe it, because I did love it. I thought it was fantastic, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and yeah, brilliant book. The next one is by an author who I haven't actually read anything of before, but I know she has written quite a few books, and this is a proof copy, so I'm not sure if the covers stayed the same for the published one, but it is The Sleeper by Emily Barr, and the kind of the cover and the tagline got me, and it was 2 strangers meet on a train, only one gets off. So I mean, if that doesn't grab you, oh hang on, let me get it in, and make you want to read, then I honestly don't know what will. And this is about a woman called Lara, and she's kind of living a lie, and everyone thinks she's really happy in her relationship with her husband, but actually she's not. And then she meets this guy on a train one night when she's commuting to and from work, and they kind of form a friendship and a bond, and they kind of fall in lust with each other. But then one day she gets on the train and doesn't get off, and then we kind of don't know what's happened to her, and we have to go on this kind of journey with her to find out what happens. And it was really good. I think the main thing that I loved about this book was that it was the mystery element of it. I love a book with a good bit of mystery, and you're racing to the end to try and find out what's happened and why things have gone the way they have. So yeah, I think that's definitely worth reading if you haven't. And I've also, since then, I've also brought a couple of Emily Barr's other books to read, because I really enjoyed this one, so I'm hoping that some of the other ones that I've brought are going to be just as good, because I really quite starting to like this author. Now the next book is this is a proof copy again, so this isn't the final cover, but this is A Tap on the Window by Linwood Barclay, and if you know me, you will know how much I fangirl over Linwood. He is my favourite author, I think, in the entire universe, because his books are just so... I can't even find the words to describe them. They're not even thrilling. They're just chilling and fast paced, and there's so many twists and turns throughout the entire plot that you're reading one chapter and you're like, yep, I know what's happened, and then you get to the next chapter and you're like, what? That's idea's gone straight out the window. And then sometimes you get to the end and then like the last line just completely throws everything out. And this book was just his... I wouldn't say it was his best book to date, because I think my favourite book of his is Trust Your Eyes, but this was definitely up here. And this was about a man who lost his son. His son unfortunately died, and he is driving along one night on his way home, and he spots a girl standing in the rain trying to get a lift. She's hitchhiking, and he knows that he shouldn't stop and let this girl get in the car, because obviously he's an old, you know, a grown man and she's a young girl, and that would look really, really dodgy. So he's just sitting at the traffic lights trying to ignore her, but then there's a tap on the window. Notice the title of the book, A Tap on the Window? Clever that, isn't it? There's a tap on the window, and it's this girl, and he winds down the window and she says, oh, are you Scott's dad? And Scott was his son that died. And he's like, oh yeah, I am. And then she says, can I have a lift? And then he kind of agrees, because he wants to find out a little bit more about what happened to his son Scott, and he also kind of feels guilty, because if it's one of Scott's friends and he's not going to give this girl a lift, then that's, you know, that wouldn't be very nice of him. So she gets in the car, and then they get to they're driving along and they get to like a petrol station, and she says to him, oh, can I quickly go to the toilet? I need the toilet. And he says, okay, hurry up then. So he pulls in and he drops her off, and she runs into the bathrooms, and then she takes forever to come out again. So he goes into the restaurant, looks around, can't find her anywhere, comes back out again, and then there's the girl sitting in his car. He gets back in the car, he goes to drive off, and then he realises that the girl that's now sitting in his car is not the girl that first got into his car when she knocked on the window, if that makes sense. So basically he's dropped a girl off, and then the girl's got back in, but it's not the same girl, and he's really confused, and he asks her why she's a different girl, and then she runs away, and it's just fantastic. It's such an interesting premise, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And Linwood Barclay just has the most amazing ability to completely and utterly, like, take you into a completely different world. And when you're reading one of these books, like, I can never ever do anything but read it. I forget to eat, I forget to drink, I forget to do anything. I almost forget to breathe when I'm reading one of these books, because I'm just so focused on what's going on that I just don't pay any attention to anything else going on around me. So definitely worth reading if you haven't read any of Linwood Barclay before. He is fantastic. So now that I've gushed about that one enough, the final one is one that I don't actually know about the author very much. I don't know if she's written anything else. Let me have a look quickly if I can see whether she's got any information in the back of the book. No, it doesn't look like that. Oh, hang on, here we go. No, this is her first novel, and it's Reconstructing Amelia by Kimberly McCreight. And I really, really love this book. This was about when a woman's daughter she gets a phone call when she's at work one day to say that her daughter's had an accident at school, and she gets to the school and she finds out that her daughter's jumped off the roof of the school building, and she can't grasp the concept that her daughter might have committed suicide, and she doesn't understand why that's happened. And then it's kind of like asking questions about, what do you tell your parents and what don't you tell them, and would you tell your parents if this was going on, that was going on. And then Kate decides, Kate is the mother's name. When the police say it's an accident, it was a suicide, Kate then says, well, I don't think it was a suicide because my daughter wasn't that way inclined. She was happy, she didn't have any reason to do that. And then Kate decides that she wants to find out for herself, so she starts up her own investigation to try and find out what happened to her daughter. And she gets a text message from an anonymous number saying Amelia didn't jump, and then she's like, well, this is definite, then something's going on, something bad has happened. And it's like Kate's journey on trying to find out what happened to her daughter Amelia and why she ended up dead on the school playground. So this was really chilling as well, actually. It was a really interesting plot, really nice characters, really well paced, really interesting kind of conclusion as well. It wasn't what I was expecting at all, and I didn't feel cheated, actually. I did think it was a little bit anticlimactic, but I didn't feel cheated at all. I thought it was really, really good. And it's kind of one of those books that crosses a few genres. It's got the it's got like the crime and the thriller element, but it's also got like a really deep emotional relationship element where it's examining like a mother-daughter bond and relationships between like people like that, and how, whether, if you don't know your daughter well enough, like what does she tell you, what doesn't she tell you. So it's really quite interesting in that sense. So yeah, that was definitely another book that's worth reading this year. So that is my top 5 crime thriller fiction books of this year. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that you've had the chance to read some of these books. If you haven't read any of them, then I definitely recommend that you do. And I think if you're going to read any of them, I recommend that you start with Linwood Barclay's book, just because I love him so much, and I think that anybody will enjoy this book. But yeah, definitely try and get hold of some of those if you haven't read them yet. And yeah, I hope that this has been an enjoyable video, and I will be back soon with my top 5 debut authors of 2013. And so I'll see you then. Bye.